Are you struggling with fat shots? Well, what you need to understand first is, what is the fat shot? Because there's a couple of different fat shots. In this video, we're going to talk about steep angles of attack that create big, thick divots that when you're done, you have to use two hands to put that divot back into the hole. And so what I want to talk to you about is how you can get rid of that steep angle of attack, that fat divot that's robbing you of distance control and consistency in your game. Let me tell you why you're hitting it fat and what fat looks like. When I look at fat, I pay attention to a couple of things. One, what's the angle of attack of the golf club? Two, what's the apex of the shot? And then three, ultimately, how much spin am I getting? So let's first go over to angle of attack. When I look at that shot, the angle of attack, you can see how high that is. That's nearly 9 degrees in that downward strike on that. And then when I go over here and I look at the information over here, my vertical launch is 14.4. My spin rate is low. The apex is low. All these different things are an indication that the angle of attack is steep and I'm creating a fat shot. Now, how do I get rid of that? What causes that? Well, what causes it is your arms and your hands are working a lot more than your body, your chest. What I want you to do is pay attention to the movement of the upper body and specifically the trail shoulder. I want that trail shoulder to get behind your head. When it gets behind your head, now we hit a shot where the apex comes up into the air, the distance increases in the air, and the amount that the ball travels on the ground shrinks. And then we look at what is going on with the golf club. Now we look over at the angle of attack, 2.3. Just by using that trail shoulder, the angle of attack now gets more level to the ground, and you get rid of that fat shot and that steep angle of the club going into the ground. What causes a fat shot? Well, there are many things that can cause a fat shot, including the angle that your arms are taking in the backswing. This is what I'm talking about. So when you get set up to hit the shot, what we want to have is we want the arms to travel back this way, sort of along the shoulder line. So my lead arm is going to be along the shoulder line, and my hands are going to be outside the shoulder. Well, if I take the club and I lift the club up into the air like this, and now my lead arm is very much perpendicular to the ground, now my angle of attack is going to go like that. So if I go way up into the air like this, and then come down on that golf ball that way, what you're going to see is a very low launch, and you're going to see a lot of rollout on that shot. And when we look over here at the angle of attack, that one there, the angle of attack was 12.3 degrees. Now, here's the solve. What I want you to do is I want you to feel that lead arm wrapping around the body. It's moving along the ground, not away from the ground. The hands are not moving away from the ground, along the ground. And when I get along the ground, now all of a sudden, the angle of attack will be very, very level. And now what you see here is that ball climbs up into the air, has a nice little tight draw to it, which is fantastic. And now let's go over here and look at that angle of attack. And now it's down to 7 degrees. So a very steep difference between the 12 and the 7, just by paying attention to what's going on with that lead arm. Let that wrap around you, and you'll get out of that fat and steep angle of attack. Footwork is such an important part of getting out of the fats that you're dealing with, and you're dealing with them. We all deal with them. But what you want to do is when you make your backswing, you want to be very aware of where your weight is in that lead foot. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I take the club back and I don't transfer my weight through rotation and lightening that lead leg, what I do is I lean on that lead leg, and now all of a sudden there's a lot of force and a lot of pressure going into my left foot, my lead leg. And when I get that, now all of a sudden that angle of attack of the club can be driven right down into the ground, and I'm hitting the fat shot. Let me show you what that's going to look like. So it's here and there. And when I hit that shot, this ball comes out really, really low. That launched at 9 degrees, and look at how far that thing rolls. Now all of a sudden we go over here to the angle of attack, and that angle of attack is about 15 degrees. Now, how do we get away from that? By making sure that what we do is we rotate the body, hips. When those hips rotate, now my lead leg can get a little bit lighter. And when that lead leg gets lighter, now all of a sudden I start getting the club to move along the ground, and it lifts that ball up into the air. You want to get out of the fat shot. Feel that weight distribution in your lead foot, and don't make it heavy, make it light. And when you lighten that lead leg, that's when you're going to get out of the fat shot.